Right. It is now straight up top of the hour here, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time on WSAN radio. And we have Joseph Lee with us this morning. Good morning, Joseph.
Morning, good morning. How's everybody?
Oh man, I'm still trying to catch up with my sleep. It has been erratic the past couple of weeks. I start working on things and now we got to office. Are we waiting for four things to come in, and that's the monitors. So you can't broadcast live if you don't have the monitor to see what you're looking at.
That's right. That's right. I'm looking at about two or three of them right now. I understand.
I got three right here. I'm going to look. That's what I'm used to.
Right.
But that's about it. But I was talking to everybody last week on how we completed the task, but we weren't truly finished what we were talking about. There was so much news coming in at a rapid pace. One thing I want to bring up, I know we're going to talk about mental health, the ex-president and shootings. This is what I came up with myself. People are running around upset that he was indicted, want to do this, want to just have sit-ins and all that. And it dawned on me. I said, do you know that back in the 60s, we were upset and we protest, but not violently. And they stick dogs and water hoses on it and water cannons on us because we wanted the same thing that they're looking for, justice. But we went about it in another way. And because of the color of our skins, they took it threatening. And I sort of, and then I'm going to bounce around to Tennessee when those students walked out of school out of protest, peaceful protest again about the shooting. And one last note I'm gonna make, because I know I'm throwing everything at you, is our governor in Florida turned around, did not tell anybody about it. The NRA was in there, but signed a bill, open and carry. You don't need a permit, no background check, or nothing about a gun in Florida. I know that's a lot I threw out there at you, but I know that's what we're going to be discussing. But these are some things I'm saying. Common sense. Where is it? They talking about they want to have committee meetings on the guns and stuff. You don't need a committee meeting. Every time there's a shooting, that's a committee meeting right there. You should say stop it. So I got my take in there.
That's all right. Well, hey, it's okay for you to get on your soapbox, right? It's your show. It's your station. So, I think that's a good segue from where we were at last time in terms of, what's going on with the Second Amendment, the maladaptive view of the Second Amendment, how that has been stretched and twisted and it continues, right? So we got laws that are being passed to continue to broaden the access of military grade weapons to unfortunately be accessed by people that are mentally unstable. And we kind of talked on that, about the enemy that we think is coming from across the border, and we should be looking at the enemy being raised in a lot of the folks' bedrooms, in their homes. The child that is playing Call of Duty all day and GTA and all these other games where murders and mayhem are happening on a regular basis, then we're surprised that it evolves into, active shooting situations and all that. We talked about the Crumleys up in, or if we didn't talk about the Crumleys, we need to, up in Detroit area, where the child had known psychological issues, depression and all that. And for Christmas, they buy their child a handgun. They're being charged with involuntary manslaughter, yes. Right? Yeah. And some people are still pushing back on that, right? So we've got some things we have to figure out in this country in terms of our true understanding of mental health issues. Are we just going to keep using that as the go-to, or are we going to actually start looking at what mental health is and what we should do when we recognize somebody has a mental health issue and how they should be treated and what restrictions need to be placed, but that's a discussion for another day, or it's a discussion actually for today. But what are we going to do? When are we going to start actually taking action steps? Because it's out there. We've talked about a lot of different things that could happen. As a mental health professional, law enforcement professional, you can place a person on the ED, right? And if they've met certain criteria for homicide or suicide ideation that they're going to act on, there are certain things that they identify, and most of these folks have crossed that line, but then the hands are tied right now. So we're kind of in a situation where you have to do something before you can do something. Well, it's too late.
Yeah.
And we're now broadening that access. So it's something that we're going to have to deal with. But part of what we're dealing with, we're going to get into it a little bit, because I know we're going to get into number 45 and his situation with being indicted on 34 felony counts, and the reaction to those in the Republican Party that are the most extreme. You got to understand, and we're going to lay out the playbook of what's going on. See, there's something that's going on here, and I'm going to give the playbook for the Republican Party. It's a mental health issue. It's something that's a maladaptive or abusive technique mentally that is being deployed. And when I lay it out, you tell me if you think it's valid or not. So the response to Trump being charged with 34 felony counts is, you got Marjorie Greene saying ridiculous things, like he can be compared to the gentleman on the back wall here, Nelson Mandela, which obviously to most reasonable people would see that observe. I can't even think of it. It's too early in the morning, Ron. Absurd as well as ridiculous, right? In terms of, and also very argumentative, very insulting, because obviously to put Donald Trump, a man who's actually being charged with giving hush money to an adult film star, to somebody that comes from versus someone with the moral compass of Nelson Mandela, who was fighting against an unjust system, who was unjustly incarcerated for over 20 years. And then the audacity to put Trump in the camp of Jesus.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So, but you understand something. That's a technique. All right. And I'm going to let you know what that technique is in a little while, right? In a minute. Then you've got the Speaker of the House, McCarthy, saying he's going to demand certain things in terms of getting some exposure or light on what's going on. Look, anybody knows anything about the legal process. You don't just randomly charge somebody with 34 with one felony, much less 34 felonies.
Yeah.
And then the response from Trump is, this is all a witch hunt. It's not valid, all this type of stuff, right? So if it's not valid, why would you have not just one, not just two, not just 10, not just 20, but 34 felony counts? So the response is, Trump goes back to Mar-a-Lago after being indicted and has his press conference with 2 American flags in the background, and says, I think he said something to the effect of, I thought it would never happen here. I thought he was going to say to me, that's what he really wanted to say. But he said here in the United States, right? Well, it happened in the United States. People get charged with felonies all the time. But most people can't fly back to their estate in Mar-a-Lago after they get charged with 34 felonies.
Yeah.
Most people that get charged with one felony, if they get indicted, they usually are spending some time in lockup, not flying back to Mar-a-Lago.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But we're not going to get into that. But I want to just lay this out. So the technique that they're using, the Republican Party is using, Trump is using, is called gaslighting.
Yes, exactly.
It's called gaslighting. Okay. So if everybody's so frustrated, everybody's so confused, I understand it, right? It's a manipulation technique. And I would give you the definition. So people, say, what is gaslighting? People say it all the time. Oh, you gaslight me, you gaslight me. Well, what is gaslighting? All right, let's get a definition. Gaslighting is the action of repetitively and often brazenly lying to someone to manipulate and ultimately control them and the relationship. It also can be divided into 4 different types: outright lying, or, as we know it, alternative facts, manipulation of reality, and scapegoating and coercion, right? Now, think about that definition, and then think about what you've seen from Trump, Marjorie Greene, those members of Congress that are trying to use coercion, even authority that they don't have, to influence or intimidate the judicial process that's happening in New York.
Yeah.
Now, we can go about outright lying. Well, we've been hearing about this alternative facts, right? And to say, when he got back down to Mar-a-Lago, what was said yesterday? Well, he said that all the people told him, right, that there was no legal precedent. They have nothing. 34 counts, 34 felonies, and they have nothing? Okay. Manipulation, outright lying, manipulation of reality. Come on now. Are we seeing it? Now, if you talk about the hardship or what happens with the problem with gaslighting is it actually does psychological damage. What it does is it destroys a person's perception of reality, and it causes confusion of what's real and what's not real. So to kind of get the history of where gaslighting came from, there's a motive for gaslighting. When people go to this extent, it's a reason for it. It's something that they're trying to have happen. So gaslighting actually comes from the 1938 play Gaslight, which was written by the British novelist Patrick Hamilton. In the play, the husband intends to convince his wife that she's going insane. Interesting. And imagining that things are occurring. He turns out to be a murderer and was hiding things from his wife and convincing her that she was crazy for suspecting anything. Does that sound a little bit familiar?
Yep.
Okay. So different types of manipulation, right? It could be, we kind of went through a lot of it, but in a relationship, it would be kind of things like the silent treatment. When somebody's done something wrong, they don't talk. Guilt tripping someone, flattery, love bombing, gaslighting. And then we already said the outright lying, manipulation of reality, scapegoating, and coercion. You can see right there the techniques that are being used and why people are confused of what reality is. Confusion, loss of confidence, loss of self-esteem, uncertainty of one's emotion or mental stability. So when people say, oh, I don't know what to believe. Well, yeah, when you've been told a lie so many times, when you've been manipulated to think that somebody else is not bringing facts, when they're obviously facts that are going to be laid out, that's gaslighting. And that's why we have so many people that are led astray, because partially they want to believe that Trump is telling the truth.
Yeah.
So it's just the same thing of being in a dysfunctional relationship. A person wants to believe this person loves them. They want to believe that this person cares about them, but they're being manipulated. And like so many people on January 6th, they now find themselves incarcerated or about being charged. They're realizing that Trump don't love nobody but himself.
Yeah.
But what did he say? Let me give you an example of the love bombing. Instead of calling those folks criminals or terrorists or whatever what they were acting like, what did he call them? A special people.
Yes, he did.
That's flattery. The amount of, just go back and watch the tape. When he finally came out, it was a term of endearment. It was a term of affection to people that had just killed people and stormed the Capitol.
Yeah.
So now that we know what's going on, now that we understand the Republican playbook of I guess we can call it the gaslighting party. That's what they become. And you know what? Let's just be real. It happens on both sides. Anytime you manipulate the facts, anytime you manipulate what actually happened, you know, some gaslighting goes on both sides. But the reality is, one party is pretty much running a party of gaslighting, the majority of it. So what is the effect? Half of the people think that they're right and that their so-called leader is being made into a martyr.
Absolutely.
Right? When you compare yourself to people like, obviously, Jesus Christ, which Jesus Christ was somebody who paid off a porn star. You'd have to be mentally ill to connect those two dots. There's no way around that. To connect yourself to Nelson Mandela with all the things that he's done. And if he spends 20 years in jail, you could see that that was valid, that Trump spends 20 years in jail. What did Nelson Mandela do to deserve 20 years in jail? So to make those comparisons, Marjorie Greene is obviously manipulating the truth. Trump is obviously manipulating the truth when he's saying there's no valid reason. There's 34 valid reasons. You don't charge somebody with a felony unless you can prove it. That's that they feel that actually be charged, if you understand the legal process, for you to be indicted for anything, if they charge you with something, they have a strong bit of evidence that they feel that they can prove in court. Now, to say that they have nothing and there's 34 felony counts, you've got to be either delusional mentally to think that they have nothing, or you've got to be intentionally trying to mislead or manipulate, which is what I'm proposing is what's going on.
Exactly.
And that's the technique, gaslighting. So
yeah.
Look at gaslighting, look into it further. There's a ton of different things on gaslighting, but now we understand exactly what's going on. When you synthesize the news and you synthesize the next few things that are coming out, and what I'm hoping is going to happen when they start this process, I hope that they initiate a gag order on 45 on anything to do with this process. And you know what? He's going to violate it. Or the Republican Party now is going to be his mouthpiece and try to throw this thing off. And this is going to be a long process. People don't understand the judicial process. This is going to be, okay, he's got 34 felony charges. He's going to be incarcerated, see him in the, and then it'll back up to something. It shows the manipulation, right? Anytime you get indicted, I don't care who it is, what crime it is, if you get indicted, usually there's what? A mugshot. How did Trump get away from not getting a mugshot? He somehow manipulated the system so that he could not get a mugshot, because then that visualization of seeing him in a mugshot makes it more look like what? Reality.
Right.
So don't think that just because he's diabolical that he's stupid. See, his heart, he's trying to continue this facade that what he's saying is reality for those that want to believe that he is innocent and he's being hunted. You're looking at the wolf, not the sheep. All right. There was a song back in the day. I forget his name, but you can play it a little later. It's called "It Wasn't Me." Right.
Oh yeah.
All right. So in that song, the lady pretty much catches her significant other cheating. And the guy just says, oh, "It wasn't me."
Yeah.
He keeps going through the song. And all he keeps saying was,
"It wasn't me."
It wasn't me. But it also in the part of the song, he also says, yeah, my girlfriend caught me cheating on the bathroom floor or something like that. And then he said his response was, "It wasn't me." In gaslighting, the woman actually starts doubting if it was him or not. That's kind of what's going on right now.
Yeah.
He's just saying it wasn't me. Now, how many people are going to believe
It
that it
wasn't.
wasn't him? Right? I don't know. It seems to be quite a few, because I saw there was quite a few people out there that want to believe in the alternative facts. But when those facts get laid out, those 34 felony counts, and one of the things I said, I don't know if I said it on this show, but I've said it a lot of times. I said, what's going to take down 45 is not going to be the initial thing is not going to take him down. Is not going to be something that's going to be really big. It's going to be something really small. So they thought the little payoff, the little hush money thing was going to be something that they could just brush under the rug. But look, that little hush money thing was connected to 34 felonies, because here's the thing. He did it at the time he was running for office.
Yeah.
That connects to some broader things. And I don't know if people are noticing what else was said, but they also said there are actually more than 34 charges that are going to be coming. There's other things that are going to be broadening. So this technique that they're trying to do to kind of delay and draw this out, well, I think the technique is going to be on the prosecution side while they're drawing it out and trying to minimize the felonies, if they can do that. There's going to continue to be more felonies that they add on. And some of those are going to stick, if not all of them.
And now, and his next hearing is, if I'm right, is December 4th.
Yeah.
So he's got the whole summer to manipulate everybody, the whole summer, the fall, and going into the winter.
So get ready for gaslighting to the 10th power. You're going to see so many attempts to manipulate the minds of people that are weak-minded enough to fall for that or want to believe into that. But here's the thing. Generation X, they're not playing with you. You can't gaslight Generation X. I can tell you that right now. They may have a lot of misinformation, but when they believe something or when they see something, they're not going to hold you up and they're going to fight back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look at the young lady from LSU that just won the championship, and she did this little thing about "you can't see me," and she had all that feedback on her about doing that. But there was somebody else that didn't look like her that did that, and it was all that praise and that, oh, she's just riling the crowd up. All that, the double standard and the hypocrisy does not work on the Generation X, and they're the next ones up that are going to be voting or are voting.
Yes,
we can see through gaslighting. On this show and on other shows, we're going to start on other places. You're going to start seeing this technique that they're trying to use being laid out. And it's a form of manipulation. And there is a psychological harm that happens from that. But when people realize that they've been misled, their greed, phobia, and fears have been played to. Greed for power, manipulation, that they have been played off of their fears and phobia and fed fear and phobias. See, you can only hide the truth for so long. Then it bubbles up. And when it bubbles up, there's going to be a consequence. And I think just keeping rational minds on the right side of history and letting the judicial process play out, making sure that it plays out, is going to be the best course of action for what happens in this country. I stopped posting things online. I used to drop these little jewels and things like that. The only time I talk about this stuff now is on a radio show or on the future YouTube channel, where we get into more things and more psychological issues so people can really synthesize and see what's going on. I see the playbook. There's a unique combination to have a political science degree and a mental health master's. I see the playbook.
And it's coming together all as one.
It's all coming together all in one. And so I see what they're doing, but I'm going to tell you at the end, it's not going to work. Those of you that are on the wrong side of history, that are supporting Trump and the MAGA policies or whatever, the history books they're trying to get out of school in advance, not going to be able to hide the truth. Not going to be able to hide the truth. And you're comparing people like Trump to Jesus Christ and Nelson Mandela. that's going to look real interesting in about 10 or 15 years from now.
Yeah. So, one thing you said, as things bubbling up, people realize later on that they got taken. What about the lone wolves out there that believe all this stuff? Somebody wrote, that's what we got to look out for. We don't know who they are. It's going to come out of nowhere.
Well, you got to, it's really diabolical, the strategies and plans that are being put in place. And if you have eyes enough to see it and reason enough to figure it out, it's not a surprise, or it's not a by chance that Donald Trump had his rally started at Waco. If you know the history of Waco and what happened by the federal legislation, what they're trying to do is manipulate the facts to say that the federal government is now infringing on everybody's rights in terms of trying to take, guns or limit the rights of folks. When in actuality, there may be some validity to some of that, but it's more validity in the fact that the party that is really trying to take the rights is the Republican Party.
Right.
Look at the legislation on abortion, on the gerrymandering of the votes in places like Georgia. What in gaslighting? One of the main reasons is what they're doing is they're saying, "Look at what you're doing," when they're the ones that's actually doing it. Look at what you're doing, but they're the ones that are actually doing what they're accusing you of. That's kind of the whole point of gaslighting. They're trying to cover their dysfunction by saying that, that's what you're doing.
Well, the best one, the best one to me is you don't want government being in your house. You don't want government doing that. The same people are saying that is our government. Have they realized they are the government?
Mm-hmm.
And talk about the government?
Right. So we talk about that lone wolf, right?
Yeah.
When they put that stuff out there, they're talking to that lone wolf, the one that's so unstable that they're buying this hook, line, and sinker, like the guy up in Buffalo. I think it was Buffalo, New York, that had the manifesto and shot up the store up there. I think it was in Buffalo, New York. I knew it was up in the New York area.
Buffalo, yeah.
Yeah, Buffalo. And he was following this narrative of, he took it to a further extreme, saying that people of color are trying to genetically replace Caucasian folks. So when you have these general manifestos of make America great again, what does that actually mean? See, some of us understand the laws. Montesquieu wrote a book called, Montesquieu wrote this book called Spirit of the Laws. The spirit of the laws is that the laws are supposed to be written in such a way that there's a space in the middle that you enjoy the freedoms. But the reality is those hedges that are supposed to create space in the middle, they're set in such a way that only certain people were supposed to enjoy the freedoms and the liberties that those laws were set up to protect. Other people now are starting to enjoy those freedoms. So they're feeling like, we're losing our entitlement. We're losing our liberty, because if more people are starting to get that freedom. See, Black folk and people of color, we were hit by the outskirts of the hedges. We weren't supposed to be on the inside to enjoy that freedom. If that makes any sense.
Yes, it does.
So now that they see we have gotten enough money, we've got enough income, we've got enough influence, we've got enough moral conviction that the world can see how unjust this is going on. They've had to loosen up those hedges a little bit so more people can get inside. But when you got more people getting inside, they're feeling like, it's not enough space. I'll buy a house way out here. You buy a house way out here. Wait a minute. I don't feel as free anymore because you're living in my neighborhood. You're working a job that I think I should have. So now we've got to put that fear out here, make America great again. That means putting those people back outside the hedges so they can enjoy that space in the middle.
Right? Exactly.
So understand what's going on. Look, we know the playbook. We know the playbook. And Generation X ain't scared to let you know. We know the playbook and we ain't playing with you on the playbook. It's not a game. We destroying the playbook. They are destroying the playbook. And I say, guess what? Good for them. Good for them. We need to start having these discussions. We need to start talking about the hypocrisy. We need to start talking about how you can be charged with 34 felonies, but you get to fly back home and have a press conference. When everybody else gets a mugshot and they sitting there waiting till their date for court.
Or to be bailed out, one or the other.
Whatever. It's definitely the entitlement and the privilege is wrapping up.
Yeah.
It's wrapping up in some ways. In some ways, it's always going to be there because it's written into the fabric of this country. It's written into the fabric of it. And that's a whole other series of shows of how we can, all I can tell you, if you want to start seeing it, get the book, The Social Contract by John Locke. Check out Montesquieu's Spirit of the Laws. Check out the Federalist Papers. And then we can get back and we can have that discussion. It's too much to talk about in just one show. But what I'm saying, what I guess I'm suggesting is the things that you are seeing, they are well established. But the people don't even know what they're reacting to or being played by and being gaslighted to react on. And I'm hoping that shows like this and other shows where people can show the playbook, expose people like Marjorie Green, what they're really trying to do. They're trying to incite, and we've talked about it offline. We might as well talk about it here. You got to wonder what the point is of broadening the access to guns when we obviously are having a problem with active shooting situation, mass shooting situations. You have to wonder, what is the point? What's the goal of something like that? See, we don't have Secret Service. We don't move in pockets where we're protected and have a police entourage and Secret Service and, all this stuff. So the masses are being allowed access to weapons and even open carry in some states, right? Now, I've suggested that we check in, look into the mental health issue that's going on in most of these major cities. Look at it. Here in San Antonio, at least, every weekend, all the beds are filled with people having serious mental health issues.
Yep.
Homicidal or suicidal ideation. Got a lot of kids that are coming up, aging out into adulthood with mental health issues that are significant, just like what happened in Nashville. Got a lot of youth that are having issues with their identity, having the non-binary community, and how that process, from what I've seen and I've been trained to understand, they have to, I think they call it dead, their previous identity. And they have a pretty bad disdain on all the things and the facilities and the things that help to kind of mentor them into what adulthood, because that wasn't the type of adult that they were trying to become as they became an adult.
Yeah.
So that's why you have attacks on religious-based schools, because that narrative doesn't match with the non-binary community's agenda being a religious-based school. That probably attacks that or is counter to that. So now, instead of having the social skills of being able to communicate, talk, and plead your case, they go grab an AR and attack that way.
Yeah.
Instead of being bullied and learn how to fight, putting on some weight and learn how to defend yourself, they just go get a AR.
Yep, that's it.
Get a semi-automatic weapon, and then they go target all the people that, previously caused them some type of mental duress. So that's why I tell all the kids, listen, you don't want to be a bully nowadays.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't want to, you better be careful what you say, because you never know who you're talking to.
Right.
Right. So that being said, we've covered a lot of different things. I think we hit the active school shooters, right? I think we hit what's going on with politics and what's going on. And look, Ron, we did it in less than an hour and a half. Now what we gonna do? What are the questions that other people turned in or whatever?
I'm glad you said that. I was just text right here that people are confused with the new words that Republicans are using. Like one asked, what is a pronoun? They keep on saying pronoun, and what we discussed woke already, but they want to know when they use the word pronoun, they go back to English, nouns, pronouns, verbs, and all that stuff. And they said, what is this new thing called a pronoun?
Well, the pronoun is, how people, in terms of the non-binary community, I guess what they're talking about is for those folks that are non-binary, they use terms like he, she, they, right? Because they don't want to be classified as either male or female.
Mm.
Now, that's my limited understanding, right? I'm not going to pretend like I'm well versed in this. I just know the basics, right? And as a therapist, my job is to try to help any and everybody to be mentally sound and healthy as best they possibly can. So just understanding what they mean by pronoun, that's my basic understanding of pronouns, is that they use the he, she, they, now you can actually see on some of the paperwork in jobs and businesses how you want to identify yourself, and you'll see, like, down on some of the emails, a person now says he or sir or he or he, what is it? He or Mr. or whatever, just basically saying that they identify just masculine.
Yeah.
But there's other alternatives. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not as versed in that. Look it up. It's on the different terminologies, the different options there. But keep in mind, this is constantly evolving and changing. And, all you can really try to do is be respectful of what people are trying to identify themselves as, right?
Yeah.
So that's, from a business standpoint, you really better do that. And in my mentorship group, we talked about this last week. You better, the young people coming up, you better be careful what you put on social media.
That's right.
You better be careful what you say in terms of that community, because they are coming after you. They will try to, as they say, cancel you if you offend them. And you got to be careful, because it's complicated. It's very complicated, especially for old guys like us that came from an environment where a man was a man, a woman was a woman. Then we always had like people like what they call drag queens, transgender type folks, but it was easier to define. But from what I understand, the folks that are non-binary don't even like the transgender folks because they've chosen a gender. I don't know. So
yeah,
that's what we're dealing with right now. And you got to also think about this too. I'm in a Greek letter fraternity. I'm a Nupe. I'm a Kappa. We believe in true manliness and fidelity. There's other fraternities out there, but you got to be careful, because what does it say? True manliness. That's gender, right? So if we're teaching young boys how to be men, to be responsible, care for their families as men, we're kind of moving to an area where that may be considered hate. That's a dangerous area to be in. And you know what? I can say I joined a fraternity under those precepts, under that criteria, in that we train for leadership, we train for how to make young men into men.
Yeah.
Now, nowhere in there, and I don't know, I can't speak for our founders, but I don't think they ever saw a day where we would be training folks on how to be non-binary. That's not what I signed up for. I don't know about that. So, maybe there should be some other organizations, some other folks out there that can train folks on that, because that's the world they live and that's what they know.
Yeah.
My job as a therapist is to be respectful of folks. I may not agree with the lifestyle. I may not like the lifestyle. Religiously, I may not agree with it, but I have to be at least respectful. And like in the church that I go to, we say love unconditionally, but unwavering truth. I'm going to stick to what the Bible says. I'm not going to pass judgment on you, but I've got to live according to my values, just like you have the right to live according to yours. Simple as that. So that's how I'm synthesizing it and dealing with it. And here's the thing: as long as you have respect for everybody, and I'm not trying to attack a person physically, emotionally, or whatever for their beliefs or whatever, hopefully we can coexist.
It's okay. I agree with you on that one. I'm trying to find this. It's one movie that came out in the 50s. Oh, it's been on my mind for the past 2 weeks. I've been trying to find it. What it was a small town in the Midwest that turned around and doing the same things going on right now about the books, that we should be teaching kids the books and all that stuff. If they won't pull a book off, they can pull the Bible off. It's got a lot of words in there that people don't like. But they watched this little community go to the library, bring all these books out and burn them. Well, that caught on like wildfire in that movie throughout the country. People were burning books. Then towards the end of the movie, somebody woke up and realized, why are we doing this? But it was their belief that they didn't want their kid to know about this. They didn't want to know this kid know about that. So what's going to happen when they get out there in the real world? If you burn all these books, they have no guidance or any direction to go, and they go out there thinking the world is full of leprechauns and roses.
Well, those of us that lived through the era when Nelson Mandela was freed in apartheid, we know how ridiculous people like Marjorie Greene sounds right now to compare Trump, who was the actual inverse or opposite of who Nelson Mandela, or in my understanding of Jesus Christ, was. But see, the only way for people to see how ridiculous that is to actually have books.
Yes.
So they can read what really is actually the facts and what is actually history. And that's exactly why they want to take things out. Remember, gaslighting means manipulation. It's hard to manipulate a population who is well read. Not just the books that schools that are trying to indoctrinate you a certain way, but my mother, bless her heart and rest in peace, used to say is that, Joseph, you're going to have to learn your history outside of school. I knew that in grade school, that I wasn't going to hear about our leaders and our contributions to the American people in school. I was going to have to find out about Malcolm X and find out about Dr. King, the early and the later Dr. King, the speeches before I Have a Dream and after I Have a Dream, right? Some of these other folks up here on the wall, Nelson Mandela, Bob Marley, all those folks. I had to know about, all these folks and how they were activists and how they changed the world, because it wasn't being taught.
That's right.
So if you don't know your history, people can bamboozle you to think anything. So that's why they're trying to take things out of the school, not because of this teaching people to hate. No, if you don't understand history, if you don't understand what has happened, you can quickly find yourself right back in that same situation, because there was a time when they were burning books before. There was a time over in Nazi Germany where they were burning books. Anytime they try to burn books and pull education out, you better be careful. In other areas of the world, you're not allowed to read certain books. Communist countries. authoritarian style countries. Russia, they take a whole lot of books off the shelves when they don't want you to read about an alternative view or perspective. So, there's a lot of books about that. So just read what happened with Nazi Germany, what they did to the books outside that weren't like what they wanted to indoctrinate their people with, and making them think that they are superior or not inferior. But then they got to understand what happened when Jesse Owens showed up at the Olympics in front of Hitler.
Yeah.
And beat all the so-called supermen. Read about Nietzsche, nihilism, all that stuff, where actually they came up with the ideas, where Hitler came up with the idea for the Aryan superiority that was completely discredited and embarrassed during the Olympics. See, life is going to always give you an alternative to lies. They said that, interracial marriage was going to create what they used to call the kids, horrible things. I can't even think of the name, but basically they were saying they were going to create monsters. Some of the most beautiful children are interracial babies.
Yes.
So what does that tell you? That all that indoctrination, all those lies, and I'll just be honest with you, I shouldn't say it, but some kids are not as attractive come from, just look at some of these countries where they honor the bloodline, and look at how these kids look. They need to mix some kids up, change up some of them traits, because boy, anyway, I'm not going to go into all that type of stuff, but
honestly,
it is what it is. You know what I'm saying?
If you look into slavery, when the master got a black woman and said that baby better be yellow. I remember watching a movie that right there, and this slave master must have had about 30 different kids, and they will work in the master's house. They was treated like redheaded stepchildren. No respect for them.
Ryan, you opening up a whole other this is how we go an hour and a half over what we're talking about. We want to talk about that and the damage of the color complex. We want to talk about the Willie Lynch letter. We want to talk about all the things that happened, how we are still dealing with that. We can get into all that, but we can't do that today. But what I will say is, it's a very real situation on that a lot of this stuff is tied into, and it all kind of plays into the fear, the phobias, and the greed, right? When you have people that has been systemically oppressed for hundreds of years, still either economic oppression, racial oppression, oppression. I mean, police brutality, redlining, all that type of stuff, right? And they know what's going on because guess what? They're intentionally continuing to do it. So then you got to be a little fearful that at some point somebody's going to snap and go at you. And when you see people starting to level up and have the same thing you do, because, let's just be real. We go to the range, you shooting a shotgun, I'm shooting a shotgun. You shooting the AR, I'm shooting the AR. It's real cordial in the range. But psychologically, it says something. Wait a minute, he got the same stuff I do. Well, that means we got a Cold War going on even here in the United States. I remember, just to give you an example, I remember during the pandemic, I'm a veteran. I've been trained with firearms and all that type of stuff. And, all weapons work the same way, right? You have to get rounds.
Yeah.
Well, when I went to go get my rounds, there was a group of guys. I'm not going to say what nationality they were, but I think you can figure it out once I tell you the rest of the story. I walk into Nardis, and I called ahead because there was a shortage of ammunition back then. I called ahead. I think I needed ammunition for my 40 caliber. And I walked in and it was just like E.F. Hutton was in the room. Everybody stopped talking.
Hmm.
Because at that time they had the ammo locked up and you had to come and get it by appointment. So I came up there and they're like, "Oh, Mr. Lee, yep, we got your ammo. You can come in." They had to unlock the gate. And they watched me walk in there and watch me come out with my ammo. And they just were watching like, how did he know to do that? Same way you did. Fear.
Yeah.
Fear. Phobias. Uh-oh. They're arming up. What? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you can see it. Now, it was a lot of things said that wasn't said. And guess what? There was another brother in there with me. He had a whole bag full of ammo. And he was getting ready to go out. So now I get it. It was one brother that went in and they were watching him. And then here I coming to get some ammo. They were like, uh-oh. But uh-oh what? What are you scared of? What you scared of? Right?
Yeah.
That's that fear and that's that phobia. That's the danger of gaslighting, of putting those messages out there, manipulating the facts, manipulating reality, you know? And see, I never told you what the ethnicity was of those other folks. You can figure it out.
Yeah. When you said it's like E.F. Hutton, it comes to my saying what I use all the time. People say, "Where do you get that from?" I I say it got so quiet. I can hear no. Well, it was so quiet. No, how did I put it? Oh, girl, watch. I hear everything you're saying because I can hear a rat piss on cotton a mile away during a thunderstorm. Now, now, I use that saying sometimes and throw people off guard. Like they're talking and you hear them, and the other one said, I heard that, right? And they look at you like, oh my God, you heard what I'm saying. Was it
Mhm.
was it meant for me to hear it? I would say absolutely, or else they would have said it.
Mhm.
Then you confront them, say somebody, they want to change. Oh, I wasn't talking like that. I meant like this. No, the first time you said it is what you meant.
Mhm. You got to understand something, right? People got to understand how the mind works. There's the conscious mind and there's the subconscious mind. And sometimes the subconscious mind will tell on you what you really are thinking. Now, and when it's really bad, they'll say something and then they'll say, "Oh, I didn't mean it like that." Don't mean if you mean it like you said it.
But you know what the ultimate truth serum is out there?
It's a few ultimate truths.
Yeah, this
Well, which one? Okay, which one is the ultimate truth, sir? Right.
alcohol. Because once they get that in them, they'll say, and that's how some of the people get caught of crimes.
You
They
know what I noticed wrong?
yeah.
You know what I noticed wrong? I think the ultimate truth serum. I think alcohol a lot of times is an excuse for people to try to blame it on the alcohol, like Jamie Foxx says, blame it on the alcohol. That's just your cover for what you really wanted to say. It don't necessarily slip out. No, you're just using that as a cover to say what you really want to say or do what you really want to do. That's why I love the fact that if you do a crime, it don't matter if you had alcohol in your system or not, because you're responsible for whatever crime you do, whatever, regardless of what influence you under. So my thing is, you're responsible for everything you say. If you say something to me drunk or you say something to me sober, I'm gonna respond to it the same way.
Yeah.
Because if you are an idiot, you should know not to drink.
There's a lot out there.
You should know that you are an idiot. You've been an idiot for a long time. So just because you get alcohol in your system, that means you're an irresponsible idiot. If somebody's stupid, they can be stupid all day. I understand people that are stupid or ignorant to certain things. But if you don't know that you're ignorant and then you go and drink something that the first thing it does is affect your judgment, I don't believe people are that ignorant that they don't know the effect of alcohol. Now, you may not know what effect alcohol has on on every type of alcohol has on you, because some alcohol affects people differently in somewhat in different ways, but most alcohol will affect, the first thing it'll affect is your judgment. And then how it affects your personality from there, it depends on alcohol. Some people can't drink tequila, some people can't drink, Hennessy or darker liquor, whatever. But if you're the type of person that shouldn't be under the influence of anything, that's your responsibility not to be out in public or around other people with that. So if you say something or do something, I've got to respond to you as if you're sober.
Well, what point I'm gonna make is it's Texas State now. But when I went in Southwest Texas State, so I was in class called course analysis, where we had to develop our own curriculum. So the professor told us, I want y'all to do something outside the box. I want you to go out and study people. I don't care what it is, just study. So my deal was I went way outside the box. I went to a bar at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't drink anything. I stayed to 10 o'clock that night, and I watched how people change once the alcohol got in them. They became more bolder, more blatant. They were just doing things they would normally wouldn't do. And I reported back to the professor, and he said, that was an interesting topic. What did you find out? I said, some of these ladies need to watch out, because some guys pretend to drink and not they wait for them to get drunk before they do anything. And some of the people who had the smartest minds in there, alcohol took over everything. And they weren't too smart after that.
Well, Ron, before I became a therapist, I didn't take it in class. One of my jobs was to bounce at this place in Grand Rapids, Michigan, called the Big Old Building, the Bob, right? Mm-hmm. And I used to sit up on the stairs going up to the comedy club and watch. That was my job, is to watch and see if people were ready to fight or whatever the case may be. And we had earpieces, and we had to be smooth about it. We had to remove people before it got to that point, or if a fight got ready to break out, we had to interact. So you start watching behaviors, and I saw exactly what you saw. But we had to watch for predators, because some people you're right, they would want their date or a lady that they were trying to talk to get drunk first, and then they would drop a little something in their glass.
Yeah.
And see, we had cameras, so we'd have to intervene and tell the person, hey, ma'am, don't drink that drink, and sir, you got to leave the building. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? So we never argue. We just say, tell you what, we have cameras. If we show you what's on the camera, we're gonna have to call the police first. Now, you want to just leave, or do you want us to have to proceed? They would leave. And the lady was like, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah. Now, we caught a lot of people, but I don't know if we caught everybody. Yeah. I will say the fights and all the stuff I'd watch people come in every day. Big, tough guys, right? They start drinking. Alcohol affects your judgment. Then what does it do? It's a depressant. So after they came in, they just broke up with the girl just broke up with them. They big, tough guys. An hour or two later, they in there crying at the bar. She crying at the bar. Why did you got to do me like that? Why? Big, tough guys, right? Yeah. Alcohol affects people different ways. You know what I'm saying? But there are some things you always know. But that truth, it will bring out some things subconsciously that you were maybe dealing with. Now you don't have the ability to hide it or to hold it, right? I've seen a guy knock out his best friend. I guess because it was fun to do, I guess. I don't know what. He opened up and said, hey, man, turn around. Yeah. Then dude hits his head on something right outside the bar. And he's like, oh, man, I didn't mean to do all that. Well, you didn't mean to do all that, but you didn't hit this dude like it was Creed 3. What do you think was going to happen? Yeah, I mean, people, but that aggression, maybe he was jealous, maybe, I don't know. I don't know the situation. I just saw it happen. I was like, well, Call the ambulance. I hope that dude ain't, break his neck or something, because he
Speaking
hit hard.
speaking about the punching, did you see was it Memphis, the ladies, where they was going through lines, shaking hands, good game? It's one lady came out of nowhere and just punched this lady, just knocked her down. It was the last game of the year. I've been trying to pull up that footage. It shows it, but it's almost like they're trying to hide it.
At
And
Memphis?
it was Memphis. I think it was Memphis. It wasn't at Memphis, but it was the NCAA basketball game. And the other team lost. Now you go down the line, you shake it up and sing good game. But one lady decided to punch the other one. And
I gotta see this now.
yeah. And so then the commentators were saying, well, she ought to be suspended. I said, well, it's the last game of the year. She can't be suspended. Now they're talking about taking away her scholarship and everything for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, you got me.
So I think this is it. After the final buzzer, players and coaches gathered to participate in the customary handshake line when Memphis guard Jamariah Shoots stopped and exchanged words with Brett Shoots, the team's leading scorer, then punched Brett in the face and was pulled away. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. Now here's the thing. Now, if you play sports, you know that a whole bunch of crap talking happens out there on that court.
Yeah.
Now, if you have any doubt on that, watch what was that show with Michael Jordan? What was it? I can't think of it. It just had it. We're talking about the history of Michael Jordan with the Bulls and all that. And apparently Jordan used to get in people's heads. He used to talk a lot of junk. But that's a part of the game. You got to be able to handle that. But remember what I told you. Young folks nowadays, a lot of times they don't have the social skills. They're not, they can't go back and forth like that. They know how to lash out. They got that down pat.
Oh yeah.
They got that down pat. So, you better be careful messing around, even talking junk, because I guess Brett must have said the wrong thing.
I don't know, but you said trash talking is part of sports. Like you get into people's head by doing that. Some of it could be real personal, but that goes to this point right here. Quit putting everything on social media because everybody know what you're doing. They know your family. They're gonna trash talk you because they're not stupid. They're reading all that stuff. They'll find whatever they can to take advantage over you.
Again, shoot, hit Brett in the face.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Knocked her down.
Mm-hmm. Pretty vicious hit, wasn't it?
I didn't see the hit. I just saw her on the ground. Wow. Let me see what happened.
Shoot, hit Brett in the face.
Oh, I still didn't see the hit. All I saw was it hit the ground. But what I will tell you is this, like I said, you got to be careful what you say. Everybody don't play that. You got to be careful. But at the same time, there's no excuse for that either.
No.
This is a competitive sport. People are going to say things. They're going to try to get in your head, all that. But social media, I will say this. Now, this is something I have to talk about. I'm glad we're bringing this up. I can't say it enough. You have to tell your kids. Matter of fact, I really wonder if kids should even have cell phones and have full access to cell phones at school and things of that nature, because so many issues, so many problems. I think probably the number one cause of punishable things that happen in schools with teenagers and early teens have to do with social media and stupid things that they put out there. You can mess up your opportunities to go to college.
Yeah.
You can come up on criminal charges, all type of crazy things. And then, you got this thing, you got an iPhone, you got this thing called AirDrop. So if you take the wrong type of picture, taking a picture of your genitalia, whatever the case may be, and you hit AirDrop, now you're participating in child pornography. Come on now. And let's just be honest. As teens, you don't have good sense. So to be able to, and once you put it out there, you cannot get it back.
Thank you. It's out
You
there.
know, it's out there. And I know of personally kids that have thrown their careers away, ended up, I know of a person that ended up going to federal court because of a prank that they did in school. I can't go into too much other details, but I will tell you, he thought he was going to graduate with his class. He graduated with a class, all right. But it was a class with orange jumpsuits on.
Mm.
Waited till his senior year to do something stupid. So, you know, social media, what you put out there, being in these chat groups, you don't know what somebody's mental health state is. And you could be saying something joking, but if that person was actually serious about harming themselves and they do it, and you go on there and put something stupid like, well, go ahead. Or David's law means you're going to jail.
Exactly.
So I don't know. I gave my daughter a phone, but we like the CIA, the FBI, everything, DEA. You know, they call me. Some people call me a helicopter parent. You doggone right. Like I said before, and not only am I a helicopter, I'm a Black Hawk.
There you go.
I will. Hey, me and my wife. I'm Black Hawk 1, and my wife is Black Hawk 2.
See, there's your
And when
hand.
I'm off duty, she's on duty. You know what I'm saying? That's how it's got to be. And if if we're not on duty, the phone is locked up. That's coming from a therapist. So you know, that's my choice. So
Yeah.
I don't know what they used to call helicopter parenting back in the day was called the village. Right?
That's right.
If you were out in that neighborhood, somebody had eyes on you. And back in the day, somebody had the ability to discipline you and will call your parents and let them know they discipline you. You're going to get disciplined at home. If you really messed up, you messed up at school, the teacher disciplined you. On the way home, somebody found out they disciplined you before you got home, and then you got home and got disciplined. Now, that's how it used to be.
You had mom, dad, aunties, uncles, grandparents all lined up to get a piece of you. And you know what? When that happened, you had second thoughts doing something stupid again.
Listen. So, you know, there were some things that we had wrong back in the day, but there were some things that we definitely had right back in the day. And one thing that we've got to get back to, I don't know how we're going to get back to it. I'm trying to figure it out myself. We've got to get back to the youth respecting elders again.
Yeah.
Because I don't care what situation it is, be it family, be it organizational. If you do not respect the elders, or more importantly, if the elders don't respect you, something is wrong. And you are not going to reach your potential. When the wisdom leaves the room, you're headed for doom. You can write that down. That's a quote. I'm dropping bars again on this thing. When I don't care what the situation, and better yet, a lot of the older heads, I praise God for all the elders and the older folks that invested in me, invested in my career. And I'm not talking about just financially. I'm talking about more just give me a word.
Yeah.
Hey, young man, don't do it like this. Hey, young man, this is the mistake I made when I started my practice or I started my business. And I didn't write them off as just old, not having any value. I listened to whatever they had to see and see how it could apply to me. That's how I still have two offices here, one in Michigan, one in San Antonio, Michigan, and one here in Texas, because I learned from my elders.
Which, the point you brought about learning from your elders, one other thing we need to get involved with is getting church back in, because we was involved in a youth group in church.
Come on.
Where we were all together, and the elders would come down. They would split the boys and girls. They split us up.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the missionaries talking to the ladies on how they should conduct themselves. You have the elders talking to the boys on what responsibilities that they had and everything. I mean, if we didn't get it from home, we got it from church.
Now let me tell you something. I wouldn't have to work so hard as a therapist if we still had a lot more of that going on. Now watch how I tie this in. I'm a trained professional, right?
All right.
That's why so many people fall for gaslighting now, because they don't listen to their elders. They're not listening to somebody that's wiser than them. The elders would tell you, Mm-mm. That's a mess right there. Don't listen to that. I know about that. I know who that man's people are. I know what they're trying to do. Remember that old saying, there's nothing new under the sun?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that was somebody that saw the playbook before. And they see, and those were the elders. And they would tell you, that ain't about nothing. And I remember back at that, I'm gonna take you way back. Remember, even when somebody would testify, some of the mothers of the church would tell them to sit down. You need to sit down, baby. You're not living like nothing. Uh-oh. They knew what was going on. But now some of the people that should be sitting down, they preaching from the pulpit, but I'm not gonna get into that too much. I ain't gonna say too much more than that. I don't want to start calling out some people churches, out here. But listen, look at their life. Look at their life. And look at the word. Say, you know my people by what? The fruit that they bear. So that's like, I don't know. You got to have your elders, right? Because they've lived through something. You got to pay attention to them. You have to respect them. Because the worst thing an elder would do is just be quiet. See you messing up, but he knows no sense in me talking to you because you're not going to receive it.
Yeah.
So we got to get to that. We got to get back to that. I see kids talking to elders any type of way now. And it still kind of makes me, I just got to let me go for somebody to start shooting at me. I can't say, you can't say nothing to some of these kids, man, because, hey, 11, 12, 13, some of them are walking around holding on to something, You gotta know your lane. Got to know what you can say.
Yeah, it's a loss with morals and respect for each other.
Yeah, we got to get back to that, man. And I'm glad to be a part of an organization that still tries to instill what we can into the youth, but it's getting trickier. We got to be careful how we say it, what we say. You don't want to be accused as a person that's not woke. If you are saying something that on how you were raised, that has value. But I don't know. To me, there's nothing wrong with telling a young man how to be a man, to stand up, and you need to be the one to hold your family together. You need to be the one getting out there and working. Now, I mean that your wife can't work, but you definitely need to be trying to get out there and do the best you can to bring some type of income or something at home. Where are we getting at where a man can sit at home and a woman doing all the work?
Yeah.
And what message does that send to the children? It's backwards, but yet you want to be called a king, but you're not providing any income to the kingdom.
Oh, ouch. No.
And anyway, what is a king? What is a pharaoh? Look it up. It stands for a great house. How you gonna have a great house with no income? Those pharaohs that have multiple wives, they were providing for every wife. Where are we getting to that? You can't be a king if you're living like a court jester.
Ooh.
So I don't know. That's from the relationship series. You're gonna get into that. Are you married to a king or a court jester? Well, some of them are really funny too, man. So they got some really good jokes. They can tell funny and entertaining. But you know what? Last time I checked, unless you Kevin Hart, Chris Rock, funny don't pay no bills. What you got on that rent? Ha ha. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm gonna say on that, man. I'm get off my soapbox. We didn't cover everything today, Ron.
Well, here's one subject we need to cover that we need to get back to. I don't know what this person, how they came up with this, but they text me, and they are from, believe it or not, from Florida, Jacksonville.
All right, Jacksonville.
They they text me, say, y'all used to have a thing called the round table. We used to watch that all the time, and you have Joseph Lee on there, you had Coke on there, you had Dee Dee on there. There's going back to the old round table that we had.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to that? Because we used to tune in and listen to that, and it just dropped off. Well, I'll answer.
COVID.
Yeah, I'll sort of answer that question for him too. COVID was the main reason, and we were doing it once a month. But we are
Right.
going to get back to it again because there have been a lot of people on there, and they always love the knowledge that Joseph Lee talked about when a call-in question came in or discussion came up and all that stuff. Joseph was always there. Not only was he speaking the truth, what he did was he put everything in logic. So even the person who don't understand the technical talk understood what Joseph was talking about. Nice message. Nice.
Well, hey, thank you for Jacksonville. You know, Florida is a special place to me. Yeah, I stayed in Ocala, Florida, for a few years, and I learned a lot about a lot of things in life in Florida. I mean, that's when I started studying marriage. Was before I got married. About 5 years before I got married, is down there in Florida, right? So we're gonna get into some of that on how I decided when I knew that I wanted to get married and how I needed to prepare myself for marriage, and get out of a lot of the myths and all the foolishness that we're indoctrinated as young men, understanding what manhood was in terms of how many women you were dating and all that type of stuff. Just so many things that we're programmed incorrectly, right? So Florida is going to forever be a special place, but also it's a dangerous place. Boy, you can't be out there walking around golfing and go into the bush. If you just hit a ball in the bush, you gotta just let it go. Them alligators ain't playing with you down there. And there's a lot of things down there at night that you just don't need to be hanging out. You know, if you see a cat, it might not be a cat. They have bobcats down there. They're not friendly. Do not go up and pet them. They don't look anyway. It's a whole bunch of stuff. But Florida, shout out, to all my folks in Florida. Much love to y'all.
Yeah, let me see. I have one more. They're texting my personal phone because some people got my personal phone number. That's all right. I can deal with it.
Oh, and speaking of Florida, would y'all get DeSantis out of office, please? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You heard that, right, Jacksonville?
Yeah, come on now. Y'all need to do some work, boy. We gotta get these mugs out of here, man. Good Lord.
Yeah. This other person just texted, just say hi. They like the show. And they were really giving their opinion about you, Joseph. Oh boy.
Oh Lord. Uh-oh.
Speaking about Joseph, before we go to this next question right here, we had a grand opening. His I told him he had his number one fan, and I bowled with her. We bowled. Matter of fact, we bowled last night. We bowled, and she told me she just think the highly of you, and she listened to you on a regular basis, and she said the same thing, that you speak in logic, and when you do break it down, people go, I never thought of it like that. So basically, this person is texting saying the same thing, saying they watch the show every week, they look forward to it, and we threw them a sidebar when we came on at 7:00 today, but they knew right away by 7:15 they logged in.
Right. That's all right. But hey, I know who this fan is. I'm not gonna put her name out there, but I appreciate her listening, and definitely enjoy having her watch the show and put these things out here in the community, right? Get the conversation started. My hope for the show is that we're gonna not just possibly learn some things about mental health. I can share some of the things that I've learned, but also you can start having those discussions in the community. And if folks want to debate and say, well, no, I don't like this, or I don't think he's right about that, that's fine. Research it though.
Yeah.
Look it up. And don't just, if you have an opinion, make sure it's an educated opinion, and then we can talk about it. If we got some people that disagree with things, let's go. I used to debate in college. I have no problem with debating things, right? But have your opinion, but let's get some educated discussions out there, because that is how I think we're going to change the landscape of this country, because some people just are believing things without thinking it through. Critical thinking is something that we have to be able to do in this country. Democracy depends on it.
Which brings to this point right here. This one caller texted me. She brought up the word critical thinking. She said she is married to a moron. That's what she has put down. I think about things and let him know this is how it is. He comes back, he says, well, where'd you get it from? She said, well, I did research on it. Well, I don't have to do research. I just listen to Fox News. They tell me everything I need to know. So she basically called her husband a moron because he don't know what he's doing about critical thinking and gets upset. She said he gets upset when I tell him the truth about something. He just turns red in the face, storms off, and just walks away. Don't talk to me for a couple hours. Well, all I can say is this. My point of view of this is, well, the truth hurts.
Well, look up cognitive dissonance. Look up the term cognitive dissonance. Maybe that'll be something we talk about. I like to give that person homework assignment, and maybe that's why they walk off, because they want this, the perfect example of a person that wants to believe something else, but the facts are counter to that. So they want to believe the alternative facts, and the alternative facts don't exist. So you're a constant reminder that they live in an alternative facts world. But you got to be careful when you call your significant other a moron, because at the end of the day, you married him.
Yeah, that's true.
So you got to be careful when you call somebody out their name, because I know love is blind. But you got to be careful that call him a moron, because he was smart enough to marry you. So that maybe he has some smart somewhere.
You know what you always say, the opposite always
attracts.
Yeah, attracts each other. One other point I want to make, it was a few weeks ago that somebody said that they're married in a household, half the household Republican, the other half is Democrat. And they talk about discussions during Thanksgiving. They said, wow, it gets out of hand. So basically the person say, what do I do? And this is my thought: leave religion and politics out of family gatherings and just your family.
I couldn't say it better myself. When you have situations and divisive and as polarized as this country is right now, there's certain things at the holidays, if you want to have them be fun and represent what a holiday should be coming together, there's certain topics and certain issues that you just don't bring up. What's the point in going to a holiday if you don't agree or like the people you're going to it? I say this all the time. I understand the importance of family, but if you don't get along with your family, why are you going there for the holiday? That's a time you got to understand. Do you want to rest and recover and enjoy the holiday, or do you want to sit there and uncle with Uncle Mark or Uncle Mike or whoever you got that you got to argue with, and then you so ready to get home that or you can't wait for them to get out of your home? Look, if I don't like you, we ain't getting along. I'll love you from a distance, but I ain't gonna sit up. I'm not gonna have you up under the house with me for the holiday. Sorry, that's the time for my people and the people I want to get along with. Shoot. That's it.
When you sit back and you talk about the good times and people that are not with you anymore passed away, holidays is getting together, and a lot of people want to use that as their stomping ground. I'm pissed off Uncle George. Watch what I say. He is pissed. Why do you spend your time to piss off Uncle George?
You better be careful, because Uncle George might be going through something psychologically. And what happens every holiday, you hear about events happening at the house.
That's right.
Okay. So, we high-high, but sometimes you don't know. And we just went through a pandemic. So some people have declined psychologically during this time, just being real. But I get it. I get wanting to come together, but sometimes you just have to set boundaries. We're not going to talk about politics. We're not going to talk about divisive issues. What we're going to do is just be around each other. We're going to love each other. We're going to talk about those things in common that we have.
Right.
So go into it, the mindset, we're going to strengthen the bond, not challenge the bond of the family.
Yeah.
And that's it. There's certain things you just want, and when you see it start to heat up, drop the conversation because it's, that's not what the holiday should be about.
When you said that, that reminded me of the movie Friday when it was getting to a heated argument. And they put on Marvin Gaye and they all just started dancing. Defuse situation.
Friday is one of my favorite movies. I'm still hurt that there'll never really be another one with John Witherspoon.
Yeah.
When the time ran out, because that was one of my favorite comedians. Glad I got to see him live, before he passed. But yeah, it'll never be. They might as well stop the Friday series now because just leave it alone. Just leave it alone.
I remember when he told Craig, today is you got to get a job. J-O-B. Want you to be a dog catcher like me? I don't want to be a dog catcher. You all day, you just pow, 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 pow.
Come on, man. I could probably go, man. I could go to the whole script of that movie, man.
Yeah.
But in my roommate, in Michigan State, we had sleep mates where we had one room, they had to share the bathroom, and there was another room.
Yeah.
And my sleep mate was Smokey. He was, I mean, look like him, live like him. I'd have had to have so many towels anyway, but by that bathroom, because what he was doing on the other side was coming through the bathroom,
Okay.
So
I'll wash your car for $10.
We'll just stop, man. This dude.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we had our time, brother. It's about 8:26.
Yes, sir. We're doing good. So we appreciate you coming on board. We know it's gonna be some things coming down the pipe. But everything that's going on this week, news is gonna go nonstop because there's some other issues that's coming up with gun issues. And we got these states passing these laws that's doesn't make any sense. They're encouraging people to go out and buy guns, ready for a shoot me up day.
Wow. Shoot me up day is happening way too frequently, right?
Yeah.
But again, you have to, on a somber note, in some ways, in the show where your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying. But I'm actually now looking at the words they're saying, and I'm looking at the actions that are coming out of it. And I have to wonder if that's not the goal.
Yeah.
Because, sitting around doing nothing while people are still getting worse and worse psychologically and acting out, by doing nothing, you're doing something. You're allowing the situation to get worse, and we got to really wrap our minds around that. But on a positive note, I think that we're getting people that are more wise and seeing who is going to have to get up out of office. And, I really see, there was a time, let's go back. There was a time when Jim Crow and all these other kind of backwards laws and backward thinking people thought they were going to, be in office or be in power forever. And then they weren't. So we just got to hope for that day and that time, and not just hope, but actually do start doing some action steps. This show and getting the education out there, continuing to put that dissonance, cognitive dissonance out there, so that people can't just believe anything that a Fox News, which, if you even call that news, I think it's more indoctrination. Now, indoctrination happens on a lot of these shows, but I try to find the channels that go right to the facts.
Yeah.
So I like to actually look at some of the financial channels because they don't have time to give you a whole bunch of opinions. They have time just to show you what the news is, and they got to get back to the financial stuff. So one of the things to avoid the psychological harm of gaslighting is to limit the amount of news that you are watching. And if they're not reporting what is actually happening, kind of move back from a lot of those opinions, right? Because that's where the manipulation comes in, through the opinions, through their spin on what is actually happening. So, kind of move away from the TV, move off of the social media. So now you watch the news, they're indoctrinating you with opinions, getting you mad. Then you get on your phone, watch social media, they're indoctrinating you with mess. Then you're talking to your friends about the mess you just saw on the news and social media. So your mind's really not getting a chance to sit back, reflect, and have some peace. Get some calm in your day. Actually, I have an app, Calm, that I listen to kind of zero out all that noise. And part of my preparation for this show is to look at facts and all that, but then I have to calm my mind down so that hopefully the more relevant facts and logic can come forward so that people can kind of sift through this nonsense and get to where the meat is.
Yeah, true that. True.
All right. Have a good morning.
Appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week,
All right.
and have a blessed week, my brother.
All right. You too. And
All
to
right.
all our listeners. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.